So I gotta say, you're known to be extremely talented, but I'm not sure people who don't know about your political side would have expected to hear you talking with a lot of sophistication about things like how the interest environment affects, the ability of government to provide direct cash payments. You've thought a lot about policy. And you've chosen to weigh in on these things. And I'm
Oh
wondering,
yeah.
do you face pressure to stick to entertainment that's kind of outside of politics,
Oh,
or is
I
it just the most natural thing in the world for you to talk policy and to be such a larger than life figure in the entertainment world at the same time?
I do face some criticism and backlash, particularly on Twitter.
Mm.
Imagine that. But plenty of people tell me to shut up and sing, or we don't care about your political opinions. Obviously, I think about these things a lot. I care about them, and I talk about them because I'm interested and I care, and I genuinely want outcomes that I think will be better for the country, and I say it. But you shouldn't value my opinion just because I'm famous and I have a lot of Twitter followers. Just assess it based on the merits of what I'm saying. And if you think what I'm saying is reasonable and makes sense, and that the outcomes of what I'm proposing would be good for the country, then feel free to agree with me. If you think it'd be terrible for the country, disagree with me, but don't do it because I'm a singer and I don't
Yeah.
have the right to speak out about it. Do it because you think I'm wrong on the merits.
Hmm.
So I think we can all have these conversations, and my assertion that I think all of us should share is that all of us have a stake in what's happening
Hmm.
in the country. We're all citizens. We vote here. We pay taxes here, and I always remember that government isn't some other thing. It's
Hmm.
us. It's a representation of us. We pool our money together
Hmm.
in the form of taxes, and then we elect people that we expect to represent our best interests. And then we trust them to have the fiduciary duty to the public, represent our best interests, and do what's best for the community. But it's us. They're representing us. They're
Hmm.
spending our money, and hopefully they're doing what's best for us, all of us, whether you're a singer, a construction worker, a plumber, a lawyer, a doctor. The government represents us. And so, in a healthy democracy, and we're not a completely healthy democracy, to be clear, but
Yeah,
in a
I want to
healthy
talk about that in a minute.
democracy, um, we have representatives who are accurate reflections of the will of the people, and then they do what's right for the people who have trusted them to represent them.
So you mentioned Twitter. I want to talk about that a little bit.
Hmm.
What are we going to do about Twitter? What are we going to do about social media? I mean, it's
Well,
such an important part of how we communicate, and it's also obviously not a space that's exactly bringing out the best of all of us all the time. Uh, Where do you think we're headed?
well, I'm of two minds about it, because on one hand, I really believe I've learned a lot by being
Mm.
engaged on Twitter. I think there are really interesting voices who I would never have known about
Mm.
unless I saw a retweet from
Mm.
them from another person that I trusted on Twitter. And I think my circle of people I'm interested in and read articles from, and read Twitter threads from,
Mm.
it has expanded,
Mm.
and I think it's been a good thing for me. I think there's so many issues I would have not known as much about had Twitter not existed. And I think a lot of voices who previously would have been marginalized by
Mm.
the corporate media structure, I think a lot of them have had an opportunity to be heard, and have their perspectives reflected in the broader conversation. And I think that is a really good thing. Of course, with that really good thing, there's also the opportunity to misinform,
Mm.
to use disinformation in social media, and we've seen the uh, President Trump, of course, um, take full advantage of that and just repeat lie after lie after lie after
Mm.
lie, and intentionally poison the conversation in a way that needs to be addressed. When it's obvious that someone's lying, and it's having a really terrible effect on the conversation and on people's lives, particularly when it comes to COVID and other
Mm.
issues of life and death. I think these social media organizations need to find ways to censor that content. Um, People can say it and not get arrested. That's free speech. But they don't have the right to say anything on any social platform
Mm.
um, that's privately owned or even corporately owned. And they don't have the right to say anything without consequence. Um, they have the right to say it without getting locked up, but they don't have the right to just say it.
It's a great point. A lot of times people talk about the First Amendment as if it
Yeah,
meant that they are entitled to have absurd things repeated or profited off or taken
yeah.
seriously, when really what the First Amendment means is the government can't stop you from saying anything, even if it's
Yeah,
wrong or
but you
stupid.
can get deplatformed.
Right,
You can lose your job if your
right.
job relies on you being honest and being trustworthy. You can there are all kinds of consequences that free speech might carry with it. And just because you're not going to go to jail for it and the government can't stop you from saying it,
Mm.
doesn't mean there aren't consequences for speech. And I think that is a fair thing that exists, that if you say something, you should be accountable for it. And there may be negative consequences if you say something that is really harmful, is really dishonest, all kinds of things. You may face consequences in the real world. And people can get mad at you for saying it. That's another part of free speech. And they can express their free speech.